The mysterious signal first appeared during Jack Miller's night shift at the Arecibo Observatory. Most nights were quiet, just the usual background noise of the universe, stars and pulsars sending their regular signals across the vastness of space. But tonight was different. Jack rubbed his tired eyes, leaning closer to the monitor. The pattern repeated again, too structured to be random cosmic noise. He quickly ran it through the analysis software, and the results made his heart race. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the sequence again. The computer confirmed what he already suspected. The signal contained mathematical sequences that couldn't occur naturally. Jack reached for his phone with trembling fingers and called Dr. Olivia Grant, the director of SETI. Despite the late hour, she answered on the third ring. "This better be important, Miller," she said, her voice thick with sleep. "I found something, Dr. Grant. Something big." Jack sent the data to her personal computer as he spoke. The pattern contains prime numbers, followed by what looks like a complex mathematical formula. "It's definitely artificial." There was silence on the line as Dr. Grant reviewed the data. Then, "I'll be there in 30 minutes. Don't tell anyone else about this yet." By morning, the observatory was buzzing with activity. Scientists from various departments huddled around screens, analyzing the signal from every possible angle. Government officials arrived by noon, their black SUVs kicking up dust in the normally quiet parking lot. Dr. Grant assembled a specialized team, setting them up in a secure room away from curious eyes. For the next week, they worked around the clock, extracting every bit of information they could from the mysterious transmission. "It's definitely a distress call," said Linda Roberts, a cryptography expert who had been working on the signal's inner structure. "And based on the Doppler shift, it's coming from somewhere in our own solar system. The Kuiper Belt, to be exact." Jack's discovery had just become the most important signal in human history, proof of intelligent alien life, and they were asking for help. On day 12, the team made their breakthrough. The aliens had embedded basic translation protocols within the signal itself, a mathematical Rosetta Stone that allowed the team to decipher the actual message. "They call themselves the Virelli," Dr. Grant announced to the assembled team. "They have a fleet of ships stranded in the outer reaches of our solar system. Their main power systems are failing." Jack stared at the translated message on the screen. The Virelli described a fleet of massive ships, each carrying thousands of their species. They had been traveling between stars when critical system failures forced them to divert to the nearest inhabited system, ours. "Why didn't we detect them before?" asked Paul Johnson, an astronomer from MIT. "The message says they've been observing us for decades," Dr. Grant replied. "They've kept themselves hidden, using the larger objects in the Kuiper Belt for cover. They didn't want to interfere with our development unless absolutely necessary." The final part of the message was the most urgent. The Virelli life support systems were beginning to fail. Without external help, they estimated complete system failure within 6 months. Over 300,000 lives hung in the balance. The president was briefed that evening. By morning, the news spread worldwide. Humanity was not alone, and our cosmic neighbors needed our help. As Jack looked at the night sky from the observatory's roof, the stars seemed different now. Somewhere out there, beyond the visible planets, an alien civilization waited, hoping humans would answer their call. The question wasn't just if we could help them, but if we would. Earth's response would define humanity's place in the cosmos for generations to come. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session 3 days after the public announcement of the Virelli distress signal. Representatives from every major nation argued heatedly about how to respond to the alien plea for help. "We can't simply ignore them," insisted the French ambassador. "This is potentially the most important moment in human history, and potentially the most dangerous," countered his Russian counterpart. "How do we know this isn't some kind of trap?" While politicians debated, scientists and engineers were already working on solutions. NASA quickly assembled an international response team led by Commander Peter Franklin, a veteran astronaut with 3 previous space missions under his belt. "We're dealing with technology far beyond our understanding," Commander Franklin told his newly formed team. "But that doesn't mean we can't help them. Humans have always been good at fixing things." Susan Rivera, a brilliant NASA engineer known for her innovative communication systems, was tasked with establishing reliable contact with the Varelli. Using the translation protocols embedded in the original message, she developed an interface that converted human language into the mathematical sequences the aliens could understand. The first two-way communication happened exactly 2 weeks after Jack Miller's discovery. The Varelli response came through Susan's system as the team watched breathlessly. "We are grateful for your reply." The message read after translation. "Our situation grows dire. 37 generation ships carry our people. Primary power systems failing. Secondary systems inadequate for long-term life support." Over the next several days, more information was exchanged. The Varelli explained they were a peaceful species from a star system approximately 83 light-years from Earth. Their massive fleet had been traveling for generations, seeking new worlds to colonize after their home planet's resources were depleted. "Why did you choose our solar system?" Susan typed into the communication interface. The response was surprising. "We have observed your civilization for 57 of your years. We find humans fascinating. Your creativity and resilience are qualities our species admires. We avoided direct contact to prevent disruption to your natural development." The Varelli described themselves as tall, partially crystalline beings who communicated through a combination of sounds and bioluminescent signals. Their ships were massive constructions, each nearly the size of a small city, housing approximately 8,000 individuals. "Our drive systems experienced catastrophic failure when passing through an unexpected radiation field," they explained. "We diverted to your system as it was the nearest with a technologically capable species. Without assistance, our life support will fail completely within 4 months. 300,000 Varelli will perish." The images they transmitted showed enormous vessels constructed with elegant flowing lines, currently hidden among the larger objects of the Kuiper Belt. The ships glowed with faint blue light, the last energy reserves keeping the Varelli alive. As detailed technical information about the failing systems was shared, Earth scientists realized something surprising. While the Varelli possessed incredibly advanced knowledge in some areas, particularly in quantum physics and biology, they had fundamental gaps in other technologies. Their propulsion and power generation systems relied on principles Earth scientists barely understood, but they lacked practical knowledge in mechanical engineering and nuclear power, areas where humans excelled. "It's like they developed their technology along a completely different path than we did," Susan explained to Commander Franklin. "They're not superior in every way, just different. And right now, our differences might be exactly what they need." The UN Security Council finally reached a decision. Earth would send a rescue mission. Humanity would answer the call for help, not just as a moral obligation, but as an opportunity to establish peaceful first contact with an alien civilization. Commander Franklin addressed his team the next morning. "We have less than 2 months to prepare for the most important rescue mission in human history. Let's get to work." The announcement of the rescue mission sparked intense global reactions. News channels ran constant coverage of the Varelli crisis. Religious leaders debated the theological implications of alien life. Military strategists worried about security concerns. Scientists celebrated the opportunity for unprecedented knowledge exchange. But in a small workshop at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Kate Wilson was too busy to follow the debates. The 32-year-old propulsion engineer had been working 18-hour days since joining the mission team. While others worried about whether to help the aliens, Kate focused on how. "The main problem is power generation," she explained to her colleagues, pointing to the diagrams the Varelli had sent. "Their quantum flux systems are failing, and they don't have conventional backup systems like we would." Kate had always been considered somewhat unconventional in her approach to engineering problems. Where others saw impossible challenges, She found creative solutions by combining existing technologies in new ways. We can't repair their quantum technology. We barely understand it, she told Commander Franklin during the daily briefing. But we could adapt our nuclear power systems to provide enough energy to maintain their life support until they can make proper repairs. Her proposal was bold but practical. Earth's nuclear reactors could be modified and installed on the alien vessels as temporary power sources. The Verelli had the theoretical knowledge to understand the principles, but had never developed similar technology. It's like they went straight from chemical energy to quantum physics without the steps in between, Kate said. Their technology is elegant but fragile. Ours is clunky but reliable. The United Nations Security Council held the final vote on whether to authorize the mission. The debate was heated. We are about to commit billions in resources to help aliens we know nothing about, argued the British representative. How can we justify this to our citizens who need those resources here on Earth? The Chinese ambassador countered. This is not just about helping the Verelli. This is humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. The knowledge we gain could advance our civilization by centuries. After 12 hours of debate, the vote was held. The decision: Earth would help. The rescue mission was officially named Operation Helping Hand. The next week saw frantic activity worldwide. The newly commissioned spacecraft Horizon *, originally built for a Mars mission, was quickly retrofitted for the longer journey to the Kuiper Belt. Teams of engineers worked around the clock to modify nuclear reactors for space deployment. Kate found herself appointed as chief of the engineering response team, suddenly responsible for coordinating hundreds of specialists from different countries and disciplines. We need people who can think on their feet, she told Commander Franklin when selecting her team members. The problems we'll face out there won't be anything we've trained for. The final team included 120 specialists, engineers, physicists, medical personnel, linguists, and military advisors. Each was chosen not just for technical expertise, but for psychological resilience and adaptability. Dr. Laura Foster, one of the world's leading xenobiologists, developed protocols for the first physical meeting with the Verelli. We'll be dealing with a biology completely different from our own, she warned. Their environment, their needs, even how they perceive reality might be fundamentally different. 7 weeks after the initial signal detection, the mission was ready. The Horizon * stood on the launch pad, heavily modified, and loaded with equipment. The crew had trained intensively, though nothing could truly prepare them for what lay ahead. The night before launch, Kate stood outside looking up at the stars. She thought about the enormous responsibility they carried. Humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. The fate of an entire alien species depending on human ingenuity. Ready for tomorrow? Commander Franklin asked, joining her. Kate nodded. As ready as we'll ever be. Do you think we can really help them? Franklin looked up at the stars. I don't know, but if there's one thing humans are good at, it's figuring things out when our backs are against the wall. I guess we'll find out if the Verelli can do the same. The Horizon * left Earth's atmosphere with the hopes of humanity riding on its success. Inside the ship, Commander Ryan Nash stood watching the blue planet shrink to a small dot against the blackness of space. Unlike most of the specialists on board, Nash had extensive space experience, but even he felt the weight of this unprecedented mission. Status report. He called over the ship's communication system. All systems functioning normally, Commander, replied Flight Engineer Diane Powell from the control room. We're on course for the Kuiper Belt. Estimated travel time is 17 days. The Horizon * was the fastest ship humans had ever built, using experimental ion propulsion technology. Even so, reaching the stranded Verelli fleet would take over 2 weeks of constant acceleration. Life aboard the ship quickly fell into a routine. The crew was divided into specialized teams, each preparing for their role in the rescue operation. Dr. Laura Foster led daily briefings on what they knew about Verelli biology and culture. Remember, they perceive light differently than we do. She explained during one session. Their visual spectrum extends into what we would call ultraviolet. Their ships will likely be lit in ways that seem dim or oddly colored to us. In the engineering section, Kate Wilson worked with her team to finalize the designs for the adapted nuclear power systems. The prototypes have been tested on Earth, but implementing them in alien technology remained a daunting challenge. We'll need to interface our systems with theirs without fully understanding their technology, Kate said, examining the Varelli schematics for the 100th time. It's like trying to fix a quantum computer with a wrench and duct tape. By the 5th day, the stress began to show. Confined spaces and the enormity of their task created tension among the crew. During a meal in the common area, an argument broke out between two engineers about the best approach to power conversion. "That's enough," Commander Nash interrupted. "We're all under pressure, but we need to work together. The Varelli don't have the luxury of us falling apart before we even reach them." On day 9, disaster struck. The Horizon passed through an unexpected debris field, likely remnants of a comet. While most of the small particles bounced harmlessly off the ship's shielding, a larger chunk struck one of the external cooling systems. "Cooling System 3 is compromised," Diane reported, her voice tense but controlled. "Temperature rising in the port engine section. We need to shut it down or risk overheating." Chief Engineer Alan Rice assessed the damage through the external cameras. "The impact damaged the coolant line. We can fix it, but someone needs to go outside." Commander Nash faced a difficult decision. The repair was essential. Without the cooling system, they would need to power down one engine, significantly delaying their arrival. But a spacewalk carried serious risks, especially at their current velocity. "I'll do it," Alan volunteered. "I designed those systems. I know them better than anyone." The spacewalk was broadcast throughout the ship as the crew watched anxiously. Alan moved carefully along the hull, tethered by a safety line. The damage was visible, a jagged tear in the coolant pipe that leaked precious fluid into space. Alan worked methodically, applying a special thermal adhesive patch designed for emergency repairs. His breathing was loud over the communication system as he struggled with the awkward angle. "Almost got it," he said, his voice strained. "Just need to seal the edge." A sudden solar flare disrupted communications for 30 heart-stopping seconds. When the system came back online, Alan was still there, finishing the repair. "Patch is secure," he reported, coolant pressure stabilizing. The crew erupted in cheers as Alan made his way back to the airlock. The mission could continue, but the close call was a harsh reminder of space's unforgiving nature. That night, Dr. Foster found Commander Nash alone in the observation deck, staring out at the distant stars. "Do you think we'll be able to help them?" she asked quietly. Nash was silent for a moment. "We have to. We've come too far to fail now." Ahead of them, though still too distant to see, waited the stranded Varelli fleet and the true test of humanity's ingenuity. The first glimpse of the Varelli fleet left the human crew speechless. As the Horizon approached the coordinates in the Kuiper Belt, the massive alien ships came into view, each one nearly the size of Manhattan, their elegant curved hulls glowing with faint blue emergency lighting. "My God," whispered Commander Nash as he stared at the main view screen. "There are dozens of them." The fleet consisted of 37 enormous vessels arranged in a defensive formation. Even in their weakened state, the ships displayed an architectural beauty that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look primitive by comparison. "We're being hailed," announced Susan Rivera from the communication station. "They're using the protocol we established." The main screen flickered, and for the first time, humans saw a Varelli. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall with a translucent crystalline body structure that emitted subtle pulses of light. Its features were vaguely humanoid, but with 3 pairs of jointed limbs and a head that tapered to a point where 7 eye-like organs were arranged in a circular pattern. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the Varelli spoke, Its voice translated through Susan's system. "I am eldest navigator Saralath. Your journey to assist us is deeply appreciated." Commander Nash stepped forward. "We're honored to meet you, eldest navigator. We've brought specialists and equipment to help repair your systems." The Varelli fleet's flagship, a vessel almost twice the size of the others, extended a docking port to receive the Horizon Asterisk. Engineers worked carefully to create an adapter between the incompatible docking mechanisms. When the airlock finally opened, Dr. Foster led the first contact team. They had prepared extensively for this moment, but nothing could fully ready them for the alien environment they entered. The Varelli ship's interior was vast, with soaring ceilings and corridors that curved in mathematically perfect arcs. The lighting pulsed in patterns that seemed to convey information, and the atmosphere felt slightly denser than Earth's, with a sweet metallic scent. A delegation of 7 Varelli waited to greet them. Up close, the aliens were even more striking. Their crystalline bodies contained internal structures that glowed with complex patterns of light. When they moved, it was with a fluid grace that belied their size. "Your physical forms are much as we observed," Saralath said, the lights within its body pulsing in sync with its words. "We hope our environment is not uncomfortable for you." Kate Wilson stepped forward with the engineering team. "We'd like to examine your power systems as soon as possible," she said, trying to hide her awe at the surroundings. The Varelli led them deeper into the ship. As they walked, Dr. Foster noticed something odd about the technology around them. While some systems appeared incredibly advanced, walls that responded to touch, doorways that formed and dissolved as needed, other aspects seemed surprisingly underdeveloped. The power core of the flagship was housed in an enormous chamber. At its center, a spherical device about 30 feet across pulsed with diminishing energy. Around it, Varelli technicians worked frantically to maintain what power remained. "This is our quantum flux generator," Saralath explained. "It draws energy directly from subspace fields, but the primary conduits have degraded beyond our ability to repair." Kate examined the alien schematics with growing surprise. "Your power generation theory is incredibly advanced, but your backup systems are—" She paused, searching for a diplomatic phrase. "Inadequate," Saralath finished for her. "Yes, our species focused on theoretical perfection rather than practical redundancy. We never needed backup systems because our primary technology never failed. Until now." Over the next several hours, the human engineers were stunned to discover that for all their advanced knowledge, the Varelli had fundamental gaps in practical engineering. They had never developed nuclear power. Their understanding of mechanical systems was theoretical rather than practical. They had relied so heavily on their quantum technology that when it failed, they had few alternatives. "I think we can help you," Kate said finally, "but it will require combining your knowledge with our technology in ways neither of our species has tried before." Saralath's body pulsed with what the translation system interpreted as hope. "Then we will work together. There is much our species can learn from yours, perhaps more than we realized." The situation aboard the Varelli fleet grew more desperate with each passing day. Life support systems were failing on 3 of the ships, forcing their occupants to evacuate to the other vessels, creating dangerous overcrowding. The blue emergency lighting throughout the fleet dimmed noticeably as power reserves continued to dwindle. In the flagship's main engineering hub, Kate Wilson wiped sweat from her forehead as she studied the integration diagrams. Her team had been working 20-hour shifts for the past 5 days, trying to adapt Earth's nuclear technology to power the alien vessels. "The problem isn't just technical," she explained to Commander Nash during their daily briefing. "The Varelli think in completely different engineering paradigms. They understand the theory behind our nuclear reactors instantly, but the practical implementation confuses them." Despite the challenges, progress was being made. The human engineers had successfully constructed a prototype power adapter that could convert energy from the nuclear generators into a form the Varelli systems could use. Now they faced the challenge of scaling it up to power entire ships. Maria Diaz, a nuclear engineer from Mexico, had been quietly working on an alternative approach. While others focused on adapting Earth technology to Varela specifications, she studied the alien quantum systems, looking for parallels with human science. "Commander, I think I've found something," she said, approaching Nash and Kate with a tablet filled with equations. "Their quantum flux technology isn't completely incompatible with our nuclear processes. If we modify our reactors to create a specific radiation pattern, we might be able to jumpstart their original systems." The concept was revolutionary, using Earth's primitive nuclear technology, not just as a replacement, but as a catalyst to revive the aliens' advanced power cores. Sarilath and the Varela engineers were skeptical but desperate enough to try anything. Work on Maria's solution proceeded rapidly, with both species contributing their expertise. The first test was scheduled for the flagship's auxiliary power system, a contained environment where failure wouldn't risk lives. As the integration neared completion, strange malfunctions began occurring in the equipment. Tools disappeared. Power fluctuations erased important data. A small fire broke out in one of the workshops. "These aren't accidents," Captain Gregory Hayes, the mission's security advisor, said after investigating the incidents. "Someone is deliberately sabotaging our work." The revelation shocked the human team. They had assumed all Varela supported the rescue effort. Sarilath called an emergency meeting with the human leadership. "I must share something troubling," the alien elder admitted, pulses of worried red light flowing through its crystalline form. "Not all of my people welcomed contact with humans. There is a faction, the purists, who believe accepting help from another species violates our most sacred principles." Captain Hayes implemented security protocols, with human Varela pairs monitoring all critical areas. The sabotage attempts decreased but didn't stop entirely. Time was running out. 2 weeks into the mission, Maria's team was ready to test their solution. The modified nuclear reactor was connected to the flagship's auxiliary quantum core through the specially designed interface. Engineers from both species monitored every aspect of the process. "Power levels at 30%, reported Alan Reyes as the system came online. "Interface is holding stable. Quantum field beginning to respond," added a Varela technician, lights pulsing rapidly across its body. Field strength increasing. The power levels continued to rise, 40%, 50%, 60%. At 75%, alarms suddenly blared. The interface between the systems began to overheat. "We're losing containment," shouted Maria. "The quantum field is becoming unstable." Kate rushed to the main control panel. "The calibration is off. Someone tampered with the settings." With seconds to decide, Maria made a bold choice. Instead of shutting down as safety protocols demanded, she manually adjusted the nuclear reaction, creating a pulse pattern that matched the quantum field's natural frequency. For a terrifying moment, both systems flared dangerously. Then, remarkably, they synchronized. The quantum core blazed with renewed energy, brighter than it had been for months. "Power levels stabilizing at 90%, Alan announced incredulously. "The quantum core is sustaining itself." The room erupted in cheers, human and Varela voices joining together. They had done it. The first ship's power was restored, proving their solution worked. Now they could implement it across the fleet. As the celebration continued, Captain Hayes approached Kate. "We still need to find the saboteurs," he said quietly. "This isn't over yet." The breakthrough on the flagship created a renewed sense of hope throughout the Varela fleet. With their solution proven, the human and Varela teams worked tirelessly to implement it across all 37 vessels. The once dim emergency lighting grew steadily brighter as ship after ship came back online. Captain Hayes and Sarilath finally identified the leaders of the purist faction, a group of senior Varela scholars who believed that accepting human help would corrupt their species' development. Rather than punishing them, Sarilath took a surprising approach. "You will work alongside the humans. The eldest navigator commanded the purest leaders. See their ingenuity firsthand. Understand what true cooperation means. Initially reluctant, the purists found themselves gradually impressed by human creativity. The humans' approach to problem solving, practical, adaptable, sometimes inelegant but effective, was completely foreign to the Varelli's methodical thinking. By the fourth week of the mission, all critical systems across the fleet had been stabilized. The immediate crisis was over, but a new question arose. What would happen next? The Varelli High Council convened a special session aboard the flagship, inviting Commander Nash and the human leadership team to attend. The chamber was enormous, with crystalline structures that amplified the light patterns emanating from the council members. "Humanity has saved our species from extinction," announced the High Speaker, a Varelli elder whose body shimmered with complex patterns of blue and gold light. "We offer our deepest gratitude and wish to properly compensate Earth for this extraordinary act." Commander Nash stepped forward. "We didn't come here expecting payment. Nevertheless," continued the High Speaker, "we propose an exchange of knowledge. There is much we can teach you about quantum physics, biotechnology, and mathematics. In return, we would learn from your mechanical engineering, resource management, and creative problem solving." The proposal went further. The Varelli requested permission to establish a permanent outpost in the outer solar system, a base for cultural and scientific exchange between the two species. "Our journey to find a new home will continue," explained Sarilath. "But we would leave behind a delegation to build lasting relations with Earth." The news was transmitted back to the United Nations, where it sparked intense debate. Eventually, agreement was reached. The Varelli would be permitted to establish their outpost near Neptune's orbit, far enough to ease security concerns, but close enough for regular contact. As the mission drew to a close, several humans made unexpected decisions. Maria Diaz requested permission to join the Varelli fleet when it departed, hoping to continue studying their quantum technology. 5 Varelli scientists asked to return to Earth as part of the first official exchange program. On the final day, a ceremony was held in the flagship's Grand Assembly Hall. The Varelli had created a memorial, a crystalline sculpture showing human and Varelli hands joined together, with an inscription in both languages. "Different paths, common future." Commander Nash addressed the gathered aliens and humans. "When we received your distress call, we faced a choice that would define our species. Today, I believe we chose wisely. Not just because we saved lives, but because we discovered something important, that despite our differences, cooperation leads to achievements neither of us could accomplish alone." Sarilath's response glowed literally through the patterns of light within its crystalline form. The Varelli sought perfection in isolation and nearly perished. Humans taught us that imperfection shared is stronger than perfection alone. As the Horizon prepared to return to Earth, Jack Miller stood on the observation deck of the Varelli flagship. The radio astronomer who had first detected the alien signal now gazed back at the distant spark that was Earth, barely visible against the backdrop of space. Beside him stood a young Varelli scientist. "Your world looks so small from here," the alien observed, its body glowing with curious blue patterns. "It is small," Jack replied, "but perhaps that's why we learn to make the most of what we have." The repaired Varelli fleet would soon continue its journey through the stars, carrying with it human knowledge, human technology, and now several humans themselves. Earth would never be the same, having taken its first real step into a larger universe. 2 civilizations that developed along entirely different paths had found each other just when they needed each other most. It wasn't just the Varelli fleet that had been saved. In many ways, both species had discovered something precious, that they weren't alone in the universe, and that together, they were stronger than apart.